your help to solve the crimes happening where you live. Also today. The depraved bus passenger assaulting women across the capital.
I couldn't stop shaking. Even after I got off the bus and it stopped, I was shaking for hours afterwards. I didn't cry. Just so angry.
And the hero cops putting their lives on the line to keep Londoners safe.
That's why I joined the job, to help people.
Today we're coming live from Guildhall Yard, home to the City of London Police. Michelle, what are you up to today?
Morning, Rav. It's been an awful few weeks for Londoners, but today I'm with some of the people who stood together during the recent terrible events. They've shown strength, they've shown resilience, and we're having a bit of a get-together of our own this morning, celebrating all that is wonderful about this great city and its people.
Thanks, Michelle. What a good idea. It's certainly a time to come together. But before that, we have our first appeal of the day, the hunt for a light-fingered pickpocket who took thousands of pounds of charity cash.
The Southwick Christian Community Church is a vibrant part of life in this West Sussex village. Reverend Linda Holcoop is the much-loved leader of the congregation.
As a church in a small community, obviously we do a lot in the local area with not just spiritual activities but education, recreation. It's difficult work sometimes, but I really enjoy it.
Linda is also the director of a charity which supports aid efforts in Zimbabwe.
I've been over there many times over the years, teaching and encouraging, and so we then formed a charity. We've sought to raise funds to support the work out there. I think for me, probably over the years of going there, and particularly with the people I've met there, got to know them, they become like an extended family, and in a time when the country's going through terrible hardship and terrible crisis, I feel the pain of that, and we do what we can to support the work so that their lives are just a little bit better.
Linda and her fundraising team managed to raise over £7,000 for a maize growing project in a special needs school. But sadly, that money never made it to Zimbabwe. In order to get the money to the charity, it first had to be changed from pounds into dollars, the currency now used in Zimbabwe. So Linda took the money to her local supermarket to make the exchange.
Normally we don't do this because we do bank-to-bank transfers, but that wasn't possible because the banking system in Zimbabwe has collapsed. I went to Sainsbury's store in West Hove, I guess it was about 3 o'clock-ish, something like that, to pick up the money that I'd ordered online and to pay for it.
She exchanged £7,000 for $9,000.
I had my handbag and I had a white carrier bag with me that I'd done some shopping in, and I thought that's the place to put it. I had a conscious thought, I'll put it in there because it won't look conspicuous. No one would think that you've got money in your carrier bag.
She made her way to the exit, the money in her bag.
A fairly youngish woman brushed against me and didn't think anything of it.
Thinking the money was safe in her bag, she headed home.
Had a cup of tea, as you do, checked my emails, and then a little while later thought I really must get that money out now. And then when I went to my carrier bag, it must be somewhere, it must be in my car, or it must be on the floor. And it really didn't dawn on me till about 10 minutes later. Then the person who brushed against me, maybe she had stolen it.
She was right. CCTV shows Linda being targeted as she left the store. Without her even noticing, almost all of the charity money had been stolen from her bag.
We do have people that are opportunistic thieves. Unfortunately, there are people out there that see this as their job. They are career thieves and they will do this professionally. In particular, we want to identify the lady in the hat that was seen with her hand in the Reverend's bag. We suspect that the lady with the dark hair is an accomplice. However, she could potentially be a witness. She was seen to enter the shop at a very similar time to the main suspect and also leave in company with her.
For Linda and her community of fundraisers, losing money destined for children in Africa has been heartbreaking.
All sorts of things go through your mind, and You know, particularly, I think, hindsight and regret and, you know, how could you have been so stupid? And then also your own sense of guilt and shame of it and having to admit it to other people. You know, so those are all difficult emotions to cope with.
I think it would be really great if we could identify the person responsible in this instance and bring them to justice to provide a bit of closure for the community.
And I think for me, one of the most difficult things was the real sense of injustice and sadness about it all.
Well, with me now is Acting Inspector of Sussex Police, Steve Hill. Now, you've actually got some good CCTV of the person responsible for this, haven't you?
That's right, Michelle. We've got some exceptional footage, as you can see, of the suspect dipping into Linda's bag and removing the money.
And there's another woman that you're keen to speak to that you've identified, isn't there?
Yes, the lady standing behind her when she commits the theft with the dark hair, we're fairly confident from reviewing the CCTV and from the witness statement that these two are working together and they have gone with the store with the intention of targeting somebody for a theft.
And this is a substantial amount of money, isn't it? Money that was intended for a really good cause.
It was £7,500 that had been raised through various fundraising efforts and donations that Linda had gone to the supermarket to change into US dollars to take out to the charity mission in Zimbabwe.
Now, thankfully, there is some good news because the community in Zimbabwe still actually got the money that was destined for them.
They did, but that was only thanks to the generosity of the public. When we initially released the images and the footage to the media, that was picked up on. Donations came in. We've also added some money to that from the Police Property Fund. But it in no way detracts the outrageous nature of this theft, and it's likely these people will go on to commit it again.
It's been really saddening for Linda, hasn't it? Thank you so much, Steve. Ralph, back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. If you can name either of those two women, we would love to hear from you. Get in touch using the numbers on screen. Calls are free. More incidents caught on camera now in today's CCTV roundup. And just so you know, the first one is pretty nasty.
It's a Saturday night and these lads are out celebrating. One of the group breaks away and heads towards the smoking area. He has no idea what's about to happen. The attacker runs off, having knocked the victim out cold, leaving him with a fractured jaw. The victim couldn't work for 6 weeks in the run-up to Christmas. Police need to find the man responsible. You know what to do. This one isn't subtle, as you can see. A rail depot in central London, and this man is using a novel way to get inside. After struggling with a hammer, he resorts to brute force and uses a sledgehammer instead. Once he's in, he wreaks havoc and causes extensive damage to the toilets, doors and appliances. But he's not finished yet. Next, he climbs over the roof to another compound. Here he breaks into one of the vans. I'm not sure if he's passed his driving test though. Watch as he tries to get out. He eventually smashes through the gates before continuing his wrecking spree and ramming another set of gates. It might seem comical, but more than £30,000 worth of damage was caused. Who is this hapless vandal? Someone must recognise him.
If you know the name of anyone you've just seen, then we need to hear from you. Call us for free on 08000 468 999. We're ready to take your calls right now. Or you can text us on 63399. Text CW space and then your message. Text to be charged at your standard message rate. Or send us an email. The address is cwr@bbc.co.uk.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're having a bit of a get-together here today, but we're not the only ones that are doing it, because this weekend people up and down the country are hosting their own garden parties, picnics, barbecues, and to explain the reason why we're doing this, I'm joined by MP for Lewisham, Vicky Foxcroft. Thank you so much for joining us, Vicky. Now, it was actually a year ago today, wasn't it, that your friend and colleague, Jo Cox, was sadly murdered. Just explain to me the importance of this campaign.
And what we want to make sure that we do is we go and celebrate Jo's life. You know, Jo was a wonderful, bubbly, friendly person who really wanted to bring people together, you know, and kind of as she went and said in a maiden speech in Parliament, you know, we've got more in common than that which divides us. And so it's very much about celebrating Joe's life rather than focusing on her death.
It's just such a positive message, isn't it? I mean, what kind of things are happening then? What kind of things are you doing?
And it's a positive message that all of her family and all of her friends have wanted to promote. And one of the things that we're doing locally in Lewisham, Deptford, and in the whole of Lewisham, is we're having a float your boat party, so people can come along, they can build their own boats, and they'll go and float them in the rivers in Lewisham, and that floats into the Thames. And the Thames is really important because that's where Joe went and lived with her family on a boat on the Thames.
That's fantastic. I mean, now more than ever, Vicky, with everything that's been happening with the London terror attacks, with the attack in Manchester, it's so important, isn't it, for us to be all coming together and, as you said, not be divided.
Yeah, and that's exactly what all of these events, I think there's something like over 1,000 events across the country that have been organised, and it's all just about, celebrating, everything that brings us together and not allowing, terrorist attacks or anything to go and divide our communities.
It's reinforcing that message, isn't it? It's the sense of community spirit, cohesion. I mean, that's what everyone here is doing. Everyone here is a part of that.
Yeah, and in Lewisham, in my constituency, we love to celebrate the sense of community, and across the country we do, and it's really important that people come together and go and do that in whatever ways they're doing it, be it a street party, be it floating your boats down the Thames, be it a disco, but managing to bring us all together to go and celebrate everything that does go and unite our communities.
That's fantastic. Vicky, thank you so much for joining us. You're going to be sticking around for the whole of the programme, and we'll be speaking to more of these people gathered around here a little later on.
Thanks, Michelle. Look forward to that. Now, every day we appeal for your help to solve cases, and in our very first programme of last year's series, we asked you to name the brutal gunmen who posed as delivery men to get inside a family home. Well, I'm delighted to say the information you gave helped to bring those attackers to justice, and here's how.
They come in with a gun and a knife, I think, and a hammer. I don't want you to panic, okay? We're going to get you some help.
Joanne and her husband Steve had been happily married for 23 years. They lived in Feltham, West London, with their 2 children, and for Joanne, home and family was everything.
Just a lovely woman. She's always been a housewife since she's been with me. Brought up my children well. Best wife in the world.
In April last year, Joanne was home alone.
I went to the front window, peeked through, and I saw the man in a yellow high-vis vest, and I called out, "Who is it?" He said, "Delivery." So I stopped for a minute, and he knocked again. I opened the door, and his foot went in. Big mistake.
Once in the house, the men pushed Joanne to the floor.
My head is being all taped around my mouth, my hands. The first man put his hand around my neck and started to strangle me. And then as the second man walked upstairs, I saw a hammer in his hand. He hit me on the head. And he hit me again on the other side of the head. His foot, and kicked me in the forehead.
It quickly became clear what the men were after.
I told him where the safe was. He couldn't open it, so I had to go and open it.
Once the safe was opened, the men took the £27,000 from inside. But things didn't end there.
I said, "I'm dying. I think I'm dying." They then put duct tape around my ankles and got what I thought to be a gun to my neck and said, if I tell the feds he's coming back for me.
Oh, let's go, got him.
And with that, they were gone.
From the minute the ambulance got passed the call to us, we realised obviously this is one of the most serious types of crime we deal with, a home invasion with weapons used, firearms mentioned. We were treating this very seriously from very early on. Within the first hour, contacting neighbours, doing sweeps of the area, obviously trying to establish any way we can find these people immediately, because it's what we call the golden hour, that first hour. So much information comes at you, and you have the best chance of getting the key evidence you're going to need to secure convictions.
It wasn't long before DS Dixon Leach and his team made their first breakthrough.
Yeah, that footage of the suspect was in police possession within 12 hours.
A neighbour's CCTV camera had caught two men scoping out the area, one wearing a UPS uniform and carrying a parcel.
We knew how they'd done what they'd done, but what we didn't know is who they were.
After the initial breakthrough, weeks passed. DS Dixon Leach and his team scoured mugshot after mugshot, but no one recognised these men. So they turned to Crimewatch Roadshow.
As soon as the show went out, we started to get information coming in. We had names put forward to us within the first 2 days.
With the pressure mounting, a man handed himself in, but refused to give the identity of his accomplice. Crucially, Crimewatch Roadshow viewers stepped in. Anonymous calls came through with names of a second man. And the final piece of the jigsaw? Gaffer tape.
The key identifier for the accomplice was the fact that his DNA had come back from the gaffer tape that he'd used to tie the victim up with.
Finally, they'd got them. Farhan Ahmed and Nadir Kabdurrahman both pleaded guilty and were convicted of robbery, possession of an imitation firearm, and possession of an offensive weapon in a public place.
I think this pair had never committed a crime that we're aware of to this level before. This appeared to be very much an escalation for them. They're willing to do it, they'll do it again. And with the injuries she suffered, with the hammer blows to the head, the knife, the firearm, she could have died. This could have been easily a murder. They left her tied up, bleeding. I'm very glad that both of them have been put away for over 12 years, with 4 years on licence each, which has been a really excellent result for us because hopefully they'll be away for over a decade.
Yeah, good riddance too. Brilliant work there. Thank you so much for those crucial calls. Right, lots more to come this morning, including how to protect yourself from online holiday booking scams and... Can you make it the end of the line for this man assaulting women on London buses?
I just think I felt like I froze and I didn't really know what to do. It wasn't an accident, he wasn't embarrassed, he wasn't ashamed.
But first, we need your help to identify another man who's been targeting women. In this case, when they were out walking on their own in Hackney in East London. With me now is Detective Inspector Paul Ridley, who's investigating. Thanks for joining us this morning, Paul. Tell us about your case.
Yeah, absolutely. The attack took place on the 10th of May. Just after midnight, a lady had been out in Hackney in a bar called Birthdays in Dalston. She entered Scriven Street, N1, as you can see on the map there. As she was walking along, she felt the presence of a male behind her. She was on a phone, and the male rugby tackled her to the ground with such force that her telephone broke. He then made off northbound along Haggis.
Well, let's have a look. We've actually got some great CCTV of the person you want
absolutely.
to speak to.
What we're looking at here is the first camera where you can see the assailant walking and following her. It then moves into the second camera, which is motion detected and zooms in, and you can clearly see the image of the offender there.
And what is so chilling is that this is just seconds before the attack.
Absolutely, and to protect the victim.
Now, you've got a good description of him, though, haven't you?
Yes, we have. He's a male in his late teens to mid-20s, between 5'6" and 5'10", and you'll notice he's wearing a Nike hooded top. And what's also distinctive about that is the sleeve. It has a vertical stripe running from shoulder to hand.
It's just off the angle that we've got there, but definitely worth noting. Now, unfortunately, you believe that this is linked to another very serious attack.
Yes, sadly, 2 days later, on the 12th of May, in pretty much the same circumstances, a lady was out in Dalston, and she was followed onto Hertford Road, which, again, you can see there. And she's approached from behind, she hears her footsteps, and he rugby tackles her to the ground. She screams, and he makes off from the scene again.
Okay, and we can see another image here of how close these two areas are. And you actually believe the offender may well be hanging around in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. We've spoken to a behavioural profiler who tells us that the male's likely to be loitering around that area and may have actually followed other women as well previously. So if that's the case and you've been followed by this man, please come forward to my investigation team.
Absolutely. And there's also a reward, isn't there?
There is. Crime Stoppers have put forward a £10,000 reward, which demonstrates the magnitude of this case and how seriously we're taking it. And that leads to the arrest and conviction of this man.
Okay, so we definitely need people to get in touch.
Absolutely.
Have a look at that image. It's a very, very clear image. Paul, thank you for joining us. Take another look. If you recognise him or have any information that might help police, please do get in touch using the number on screen. Otherwise, you can call Crime Stoppers anonymously. You've just heard that on 0800 555 111.
It's that time of year, isn't it, when many of us are thinking of heading off on our holidays, but holiday crime is on the rise for the 5th year running, with many thousands of people falling victim to holiday scams. With me now to talk about the different types of scams that are out there is DI Mick Dodge from City of London Police. I mean, it's a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a growing problem. Last year, £7.2 million was lost to holiday fraud, and that's over 6,000 reports that were received into action fraud. It's a 20% increase on the year before, so it's a crime that just keeps on growing.
And this is a crime that's fuelled, really, by more and more people booking online.
Yeah, definitely. 3/4 of us book our holidays online now. And fraudsters will use that opportunity to exploit it. They'll use fake websites, fake social media profiles, and send you unsolicited emails to try and con you out of your money.
It's interesting, isn't it, to see the different types of scams that are out there. We can actually hear now from a lady called Gemma Woolley from Bridgend, who was another victim of a holiday scam.
I had a response to say that the dates were unavailable to start with. And then within 45 minutes, I had another email to say, please ignore the last email. I've had the dates mixed up. We are actually available. So, I just quickly glanced at it. Obviously, it was ecstatic, the fact that it was still available. Text everyone, yes, quick book it now. I had a phone call back to say she didn't know what I was talking about. And she just immediately said to me, you've been scammed. So, you can imagine, devastated at that point.
I mean, that is just terrible, isn't it? Gemma, she went through a reputable site, but the scammers actually hacked into the property owners' emails. How can we better protect ourselves from things like that?
Yeah, some of the scams can be quite complicated, but there's some really simple advice that can help you to protect yourself. So things like make sure the website you're using is reputable. Is it registered with an organisation like ABTA? And if you are booking online, stay within the payment mechanism on that website using your credit or your debit card. Absolutely don't pay by direct bank transfer because you lose all protection. When you do make a payment, look for that padlock in the top left-hand corner in the address bar. That tells you it's a secure transaction.
Nick, really great advice. And there's some more information actually on the Action Fraud website, so make sure you head there as well.
Earlier, we asked for your help to find a man attacking women on the streets of Hackney. Well, unfortunately, we now need your help to identify another man, this time targeting victims on London's buses.
Sort of between 20 and 30.
Maybe Middle Eastern, and he had dark hair, and he just kept staring at me and touching himself. I felt like I froze. Didn't really know what to do.
Police started receiving reports in March last year. A man was indiscriminately assaulting women on London buses. He has never been caught.
I was going to a meeting. I was always rushing around from one part of London to another part. A few stops after I got on, a man got on and sat next to me, and he was really close.
His behaviour made the woman feel anxious.
And I thought he was going to try and rob me at first because I had my work phone, my personal phone, laptop and everything.
But then his leg started to touch hers.
I had a dress on. It was just horrible. Like, it wouldn't be nice anyways, but I think if I had trousers on, I wouldn't have felt so... Yeah, it was just not very nice.
He put his leg up, blocking her in, and moved even closer.
I think if I'd have moved my face, we could have probably touched faces.
The man then started touching himself.
I was thinking, should I go to the bus driver? Or should I just didn't know what to do.
Scared and worried about what would happen next, she made a break for it. She pushed past him and quickly left the bus.
And then he just kept staring at me and touching himself. So it was, yeah, just not nice. When I got off of the bus, he carried on staring at me from the back window. A few minutes, I felt like I froze and I didn't really know what to do. It wasn't an accident, he wasn't embarrassed, he wasn't ashamed.
In September, the attacker struck again. This time targeting a woman who had got on the 226 bus with her children.
I'm a single mum and I use public transport every day. Back and forth, taking the kids to school, work, shopping, everything. I was with my kids. I didn't think I was vulnerable.
Just minutes into her journey, the offender sat down next to her.
I mean, at first I thought he was trying to look at what I was doing on my phone, but then his face was really close to my face, and I realised he was staring at me, so I felt really uncomfortable. was grabbing onto my thigh, and then I'd look at him, and he'd stop and then move his hand, and then he would do it again as soon as I went back on my phone. I didn't react straight away. I was shocked. I thought, is this real? This is actually happening, or am I dreaming? So it took for a while when he was doing it for me to respond. I'm thinking I have to be careful how I respond. I can't scare my kids. I can't scare my kids. Oh gosh, I was shaking the whole time. And it sounds ridiculous, but I was on my phone and I couldn't move. He put his whole hand on my thigh and tried to grab. And I turned to him and I said, I know what you're doing, don't touch me. And he just kept shrugging.
After he was confronted, the attacker got up but stayed standing on the bus. With shaking hands, the woman held up her mobile phone and took a photo.
I wanted him to know that I did it, because I wasn't scared. I just felt violated.
The attacker left the bus at Park Royal Station.
I couldn't stop shaking. Even after I got off the bus and it stopped, I was shaking for hours afterwards. I didn't cry. I was just so angry.
I think that this man is getting on the bus and his sole purpose for riding on the bus is to commit these offences. I don't believe he's making any legitimate journey. Public transport's for everybody and you should be able to get on that without any sort of fear of anything bad happening to you. So that's why it's important that this man is caught and brought to justice.
So some people have said, oh, I wouldn't have reported it because it wasn't that bad. But I thought, no, it is bad, it's a serious thing.
I always feel so carefree when I go on buses and when I'm walking around the street and even at night time. And I never really feared anything like that because you always think it's never going to happen to you. And it did.
Such a horrible thing to have to go through. Detective Inspector Dave Dixon joins me now. Dave, you believe this man is a prolific offender?
Yes, we've got him linked to 6 offences, all on buses. He mainly offends in the daytime, but he also offends at night. And it's from one of his night offences that we've got some CCTV footage from the N18 bus. And in that footage, you can see that he boards the bus and goes straight upstairs to the top deck. He sits at the back, and within minutes, he starts offending. During that journey, he offends against 4 different women. And the last woman he offends against was actually asleep, and she woke up to find him sitting next to her committing the offence.
So scary. And this man has been assaulting women on a range of different bus routes, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. It's been mainly in the Brent area and the Park Royal area, but he's also offended on the 341 in Tottenham and the 226 that runs from Ealing to Golders Green.
And you've got some very, very clear images, haven't you, of the man responsible?
Yes, we have. All London buses have CCTV cameras that record internally and externally, and it's from those cameras that we've got some images of him. Different times, different dates, but you can clearly identify in these images that it is the same man. Also, one of the victims took a picture of him with a mobile telephone, and that is also a really good image of him.
Dave, thank you very much.
Okay.
Ralph.
Time now for a look at today's wanted faces, starting with 26-year-old Van Nguyen, although you may know him as Jimmy or Jiang Li. This is also another picture of him. Detectives want to speak to him in connection to human trafficking and modern slavery incidents at nail bars across the UK. Now, originally from Vietnam, he now has friends and family in Staffordshire, the West Midlands, Manchester, Cheltenham and the southwest of England. Next this morning is Sheridan Fayomi, but he also uses the names Timothy Johnson, Timothy Arnold and Sheridan Corleast. He was arrested in connection with the recovery of a quantity of heroin and crack cocaine and released on police bail, but hasn't returned for further questioning. He has links to London, Manchester and Sussex and is 26 years of age. Or do you recognise 18-year-old John Casey, although he sometimes claims he's 22-year-old Michael Casey? He was released on police bail in connection to a number of house burglaries in West Sussex and Brighton. He's failed to return though and is now wanted. Casey has an acne-scarred face and an Irish accent. And finally for today is Tony White, although you may know him as Terry White or Tony Cadell. Police in Kent would like to speak to him about an assault on a woman and the breach of a restraining order. The 30-year-old has a tattoo of the words R.I.P. Nan on his neck and links to Thanet and Ashford in Kent. He could also be working in London. So if you know where any of these faces are, make sure you get in touch using the numbers on screen.
Now, the terrible blaze in West London that's claimed so many people's lives has shown us all, once again, the immense bravery of the emergency services. Firefighters, the police force, their job is to serve and protect the public. And as we've seen over the past few months. They've put their lives on the line time and time again. And that's highlighted once more in this next story of two police officers who ran towards danger in order to protect the lives of others.
PC Craig Nicholson and PC Shan Panisar have been working together on response for more than 5 years. And for the pair, every day is different.
Being a police officer, you never know what you're going to come in and have to deal with. It's the variety that we get, especially on response team.
We can have neighbour disputes, domestic incidents, we have a wide range of calls.
So you're under arrest on suspicion of drink drive. Listen to the calls that are coming out on the radio. There's a 15-year-old missing child, we've got a burglary up in the top end of the grounds, and we've got a fight on the high street. So different stuff that comes out all day, every day, as we're just driving around.
One night last September, the officers received a call out to a house fire in South Ruislip.
As soon as I heard house fire, somebody trapped, no longer responding, you know that is going to be something, a serious incident that is going to take a lot of people to deal with.
The house belonged to 37-year-old Russell Alsop and his partner of 18 years, Heather.
Everyone needs a soulmate, everyone needs a best friend, everyone needs that person for the good times and the bad, you know.
At the time, Russell was Heather's full-time carer as she suffered from emphysema, a form of lung disease.
Unfortunately, it affects a lot of her day-to-day activities, walking, just things normal people take for granted.
One evening, Russell was downstairs preparing Heather's tea.
It became quite hectic. Something distracted me away from what I was actually meant to be doing. Forgot that I put this chip pan on. So that's when hell broke loose for me.
The chip pan had caught fire, and within minutes, the whole kitchen was engulfed in flames.
I describe trying to get into a fire that's raging, the thick black smoke, as your worst nightmare.
But Russell realised Heather was still upstairs.
Got into the bedroom and she was lifeless on the bed, like completely non-responsive.
Before she lost consciousness, Heather managed to dial 999. The police were the first to arrive at the scene.
Wow. Definitely started in here.
This is their first visit to the house since that fateful night.
I know fires spread quick, but you don't realise just how quick they spread. Coming from turning up and there being smoke inside the house, and then there being like a raging fire within minutes.
Yeah. It's a bit strange. It's a bit surreal. It's like we hadn't seen any of this. We'd only seen sort of the photos, and from when the call came out to us getting here, it must have been a couple of minutes maximum, literally 3 minutes maximum. The smoke was coming through, like I was saying, all the smoke coming out, this whole area was just smoke. I mean, they've peeled all the wallpaper off now, but this whole area here was just literally just like thick black smoke.
As first responders, they had to act quickly.
We didn't get more than a couple of metres in before the smoke was just so thick we couldn't breathe.
Russell was screaming, and I thought he was upstairs to the left, so I got about halfway up the stairs first time calling for him. I needed to breathe because the smoke was so bad, I couldn't breathe inside. So I came back outside, took a couple of deep breaths, and I held my breath, and I went upstairs to the left, and just as I got round the corner to the left, I bumped into Russell, or I know it was Russell now, and at our feet was Heather laying there lifeless. As far as I remember Heather being sort of coming up to my left and just being here, laying on the floor. I just took hold of any way I could, and just grabbed her, just dragged her down as quick as I could to get her outside.
And in that split second, when Craig put her down, I saw that she was making no movements whatsoever.
Get all the way down the stairs, outside, just onto the pavement, just out the front, literally about a metre away from the front door.
Heather was obviously not breathing, she was in a bad way.
I believe Craig got through about 6 rounds of CPR.
And she was like completely lifeless, not making any noises, not making any sounds. And after about 15 minutes, I felt her stomach just sort of dropped, and then she started moving again. She started trying to breathe, like gasping for air, but she was doing it herself.
It's the most amazing feeling ever. I can't describe it.
And then finally, the paramedics arrived, and they came and took over, which was amazing.
Heather spent the next 5 weeks in hospital, but went on to make a full recovery.
I'm so lucky that they were the people who responded, because they're not fire brigade, and I know they're not meant to just go in with no safety equipment or anything, and they did.
this is the sort of people that really make a difference in the world, I suppose.
Now that Heather is in better health, the officers have come along to see how they're both coping since the fire.
Hello again.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Okay?
I'm okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, so you look a lot better.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm so happy to see you.
You too.
Sorry, thanks. Thanks for everything you
How you
did,
doing,
mate.
mate?
Not too bad. Thank you.
You
Thank
must
you.
take-
Nice to see you, I really
Thank you so much for what you did that day, mate. You guys are heroes. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
The most amazing thing was when you started breathing again. That for me, that was just amazing. You just started breathing. You were trying so hard to breathe on your own, and we were still working on you. We were still working on you.
You deserve everything that you've been awarded.
We've got everything we deserve. She's still here. That's the main thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's the best
outcome
reward
ever.
Yeah.
We do what we do, and then it's only when you sit down afterwards to reflect, you think about what happened.
These officers do the Metropolitan Police and any police force proud.
They want to leave us. That's an amazing thing.
This sort of incident is why I joined the job.
The feeling that somebody is still around because you were able to give them the ultimate help. That's why I joined the job, to help people.
It's just really inspirational, and as I said, a sheer reminder of the bravery of the emergency services. You know, they're putting themselves out there in the face of danger. And of course, our hearts go out to everyone that was involved in the London terror attacks and the Grenfell Tower fire earlier this week. Now, today is all about coming together. As Joe said earlier, it's about uniting rather than dividing. So we've got lots of different people here. We've got various different groups. We've got the Sikh Squad. We've got Sanjit here. Sanjit, lovely to speak to you. You guys have been very heavily involved in the aftermath of the tower fire. So what did you see when you were there? How was it?
It was a very humbling experience, and all the local community coming together, different faiths, different cultures, showing solidarity just to help those in need. It showed a lot of selflessness, and Nishkam actually means selflessness, so it resonates with ourselves strongly. So it was great just to see everyone come together.
And Harjit, for you on a personal level, what does getting together, what does this kind of event mean?
Do you know what? Over the last few days, we've been asked by a lot of reporters that why did you get involved? And what we're saying is, why wouldn't we get involved? Our faith teaches us that humanity is one big family, and if your family is suffering wherever, we are there to help. We will step up, and that's what we enjoy and we love. We're on the streets of London, serving the homeless 5 times a week, up to about 1,500 meals, and it's something that we enjoy.
It's just so inspirational. Thank you so much. And it's incredibly humbling, really, just hearing people talk about this. We've also got Imran from Islamic Relief. Now, you're organising an iftar tonight.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, we're in the month of Ramadan. It's a month of fasting, so that means at the end of the day, we break bread, and it's a great opportunity to do that with different communities. So tonight in Luton, Islamic Relief has an iftar. So we'll bring communities together as part of the great get-together in memory of Joe Cox.
Well, I hope it goes really well. Lovely to speak to you. Now, on the show on Monday, if you're watching, you would have heard from Inspector Jim Cole. He was one of the first officers on the scene at the London Borough attacks. What does this event mean to you after everything that's happened?
Well, it's nice to get everybody together, you know, see the communities coming together. The response from people in and around London Bridge has been fantastic.
And Jess, you know, your patch is London Bridge. This is really important to you as well.
Oh, massively. I'm responsible for the square mile, which includes London Bridge, and it's all about reassurance and engagement and letting people know that, you know, we're out there, and if you see a police officer, come and talk to us. We are friendly, and you know, it's about being stoic and pushing
Sticking
forward.
together.
Absolutely.
Guys, thank you very much. I mean, just chatting to everyone, it's incredibly inspirational, isn't it, Raf?
Yeah, absolutely, Michelle. Truly inspiring way to end the week. Now, there's just time before we go to look at what's been coming in on the calls, texts and emails. You may remember this CCTV from yesterday.
Yes.
Yes.
Switch it off. Quickly.
Yes.
Yes, please, because it's going to fire.
Well, police want to question this man after an elderly woman was burgled and a man claimed he was there to turn her gas off. It's just despicable. Well, police say that as a result of information you've given them, they're chasing up a potentially strong lead, so keep those calls coming in. That's it for this week. Michelle, tell us, where are you going to be next week?
Raf, I'm going to be up in the air on Monday. I'm going to be joining the police force in a small airfield in North Yorkshire, seeing how they deal with smugglers. But for now, I just wish everyone the best for their events this weekend.
Thank you, Michelle. For more details about the crimes on today's programme, head to our website. Before we go, here's another look at this morning's wanted faces. If any of them look familiar to you, then pick up the phone and tell us where they are. We're going to be back on Monday morning at 9:15, just after breakfast. Until then, do take care. Bye-bye. Roadshow, as always, we need your help to solve the crimes happening where you live. Also today.
The depraved bus passenger assaulting women across the capital.
I couldn't stop shaking. Even after I got off the bus and it stopped, I was shaking for hours afterwards. I didn't cry. I was just so angry.
And the hero cops putting their lives on the line to keep Londoners safe.
That's why I joined the job, to help people.
Today we're coming live from Guildhall Yard, home to the City of London Police. Michelle, what are you up to today?
Morning, Rav. It's been an awful few weeks for Londoners, but today I'm with some of the people who stood together during the recent terrible events. They've shown strength, they've shown resilience, and we're having a bit of a get-together of our own this morning, celebrating all that is wonderful about this great city and its people.
Thanks, Michelle. What a good idea. It's certainly a time to come together. But before that, we have our first appeal of the day, the hunt for a light-fingered pickpocket who took thousands of pounds of charity cash.
The Southwick Christian Community Church is a vibrant part of life in this West Sussex village. Reverend Linda Holcoop is the much-loved leader of the congregation.
As a church in a small community, obviously we do a lot in the local area with not just spiritual activities but education and recreation. It's difficult work sometimes, but I really enjoy it.
Linda is also the director of a charity which supports aid efforts in Zimbabwe.
I've been over there many times over the years, teaching and encouraging, and so we then formed a charity. We've sought to raise funds to support the work out there. I think for me, probably over the years of going there, and particularly with the people I've met there, got to know them, they become like an extended family, and in a time when the country's going through terrible hardship and terrible crisis, I feel the pain of that, and we do what we can to support the work so that their lives are just a little bit better.
Linda and her fundraising team managed to raise over £7,000 for a maize growing project in a special needs school. But sadly, that money never made it to Zimbabwe. In order to get the money to the charity, it first had to be changed from pounds into dollars, the currency now used in Zimbabwe. So Linda took the money to her local supermarket to make the exchange.
Normally we don't do this because we do bank-to-bank transfers, but that wasn't possible because the banking system in Zimbabwe has collapsed. I went to Sainsbury's store in West Hove, I guess it was about 3 o'clock-ish, something like that, to pick up the money that I'd ordered online and to pay for it.
She exchanged £7,000 for $9,000.
I had my handbag and I had a white carrier bag with me that I'd done some shopping in, and I thought that's the place to put it. I had a conscious thought, I'll put it in there because it won't look conspicuous. No one would think that you've got money in your carrier bag.
She made her way to the exit, the money in her bag.
A fairly youngish woman brushed against me and didn't think anything of it.
Thinking the money was safe in her bag, she headed home.
Had a cup of tea, as you do, checked my emails, and then a little while later thought, I really must get that money out now. And then when I went to my carrier bag, it must be somewhere, it must be in my car, or it must be on the floor. And it really didn't dawn on me till about 10 minutes later. Then the person who brushed against me, maybe she had stolen it.
She was right. CCTV shows Linda being targeted as she left the store. Without her even noticing, almost all of the charity money had been stolen from her bag.
We do have people that are opportunistic thieves. Unfortunately, there are people out there that see this as their job. They are career thieves and they will do this professionally. In particular, we want to identify the lady in the hat that was seen with her hand in the Reverend's bag. We suspect that the lady with the dark hair is an accomplice. However, she could potentially be a witness. She was seen to enter the shop at a very similar time to the main suspect and also leave in company with her.
For Linda and her community of fundraisers, losing money destined for children in Africa has been heartbreaking.
All sorts of things go through your mind, and you know, particularly I think hindsight and regret, and you know, how could you have been so stupid, and then also your own sense of guilt and shame of it, and having to admit it to other people. You know, so those are all difficult emotions to cope with.
I think it would be really great if we could identify the person responsible in this instance and bring them to justice to provide a bit of closure for the community.
And I think for me, one of the most difficult things was the real sense of injustice and sadness about it all.
Well, with me now is Acting Inspector of Sussex Police, Steve Hill. Now, you've actually got some good CCTV of the person responsible for this, haven't you?
That's right, Michelle. We've got some exceptional footage, as you can see, of the suspect dipping into Linda's bag and removing the money.
And there's another woman that you're keen to speak to that you've identified, isn't there?
Yes, the lady standing behind her when she commits the theft with the dark hair, we're fairly confident from reviewing the CCTV and from the witness statement that these two are working together and they have gone with the store with the intention of targeting somebody for a theft.
And this is a substantial amount of money, isn't it? Money that was intended for a really good cause.
It was £7,500 that had been raised through various fundraising efforts and donations that Linda had gone to the supermarket to change into US dollars to take out to the charity mission in Zimbabwe.
Now, thankfully, there is some good news because the community in Zimbabwe still actually got the money that was destined for them.
They did, but that was only thanks to the generosity of the public. When we initially released the images and the footage to the media, that was picked up on. Donations came in. We've also added some money to that from the Police Property Fund. But it in no way detracts the outrageous nature of this theft, and it's likely these people will go on to commit it again.
It's been really saddening for Linda, hasn't it? Thank you so much, Steve. Right, back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. If you can name either of those two women, we would love to hear from you. Get in touch using the numbers on screen. Calls are free. More incidents caught on camera now in today's CCTV roundup. And just so you know, the first one is pretty nasty.
It's a Saturday night and these lads are out celebrating. One of the group breaks away and heads towards the smoking area. He has no idea what's about to happen. The attacker runs off, having knocked the victim out cold, leaving him with a fractured jaw. The victim couldn't work for 6 weeks in the run-up to Christmas. Police need to find the man responsible. You know what to do. This one isn't subtle, as you can see. A rail depot in central London, and this man is using a novel way to get inside. After struggling with a hammer, he resorts to brute force and uses a sledgehammer instead. Once he's in, he wreaks